The people who built the pyramids didn't run on magic or alien technology. They ran on bread and beer. That was it. The greatest civilization of the ancient world was basically powered by carbs. And what they ate tells you everything about how they actually lived. And it all started with the river. Every year the Nile flooded, dumping thick, black mud across the land. That mud was so rich that crops practically grew themselves. The Egyptians called their country the Black Land, named after the dirt that fed them. From that soil came their number one food, bread. Egyptians ate bread at every single meal every day of their lives. They had dozens of kinds: flat loaves, round loaves, sweet loaves, shaped like animals. If you were Egyptian, your day revolved around bread. But here's the gross part. To grind their grain to flour, they used stone tools, and tiny bits of stone and wind-blown desert sand got into everything. So every loaf was packed with grit. Egyptians literally chewed sand with every bite, and it destroyed their teeth. Mummies show teeth ground down to flat, painful stumps, full of abscesses. The richer you were, the more bread you ate, which meant the wealthy often had the worst teeth of all. Their luxury was slowly killing their mouths. To wash that bread down, there was beer. Not the beer you know today. Egyptian beer was thick, cloudy, lumpy, almost like a liquid bread. It was full of calories and nutrients, and everyone drank it. Men, women, even children had it daily. Beer was also safer than water, which was often dirty and full of disease. So a civilization basically stayed hydrated by getting a little buzzed all day long. And beer was so valuable, it was used as money. That's right. The workers who built the pyramids and tombs were paid in bread and beer. A standard daily wage was around 10 loaves of bread and a couple jugs of beer. Imagine getting your paychecks in carbs and booze. After bread and beer came the holy trinity of Egyptian vegetables: onions, garlics, and leeks. They ate them constantly. They believed onions had spiritual power and were sometimes even placed inside tombs and wrapped with mummies. They also grew lettuce, but lettuce wasn't just a salad. It was linked to the fertility god Min and believed to be a powerful, let's say, romance booster. Egyptians took their lettuce very seriously for reasons that had nothing to do with health. For something sweet, they had no sugar at all. Instead, they used honey and dates. Honey was precious, harvested from hives and prized for both food and medicine. Dates and figs were everywhere, nature's candy for an entire civilization. The Nile gave them more than mud, it gave them fish. Fish was a cheap, common food for ordinary people, dried and salted to last. Though strangely, some priests in certain regions considered specific fish unclean and refused to touch them. For me, the poor mostly ate birds, ducks, geese, and pigeons were trapped in the marshes. And the Egyptians may have invented something dark, force feeding grease to fatten their livers, an early version of foie gras thousands of years ago. Although beef was actually a luxury, a whole cow was a fortune, so red meat was mostly for the rich, the priests, and the gods. Temples slaughtered cattle as offerings, and only then did the ordinary people sometimes get a share of the leftovers. Nobody used forks. Egyptians ate with their hands, scooping up food with what else? Pieces of bread? They sat on the floor or on cushions around low tables, washing their hands before and after. Bread was plate, spoon, and snacks all at once. But the gap between rich and poor at the dinner table was enormous. Peasants ate bread, onions, and beer day after day. A nobleman? He threw banquets that would make your head spin. At an elite banquet, guests were drowned in roast meats, fruit, wine, and sweets. Servants played music. Guests wore cones of scented fat on their heads that slowly melted and perfumed them through the night. And yes, people absolutely ate and drank until they were sick. Wine was the drink of the wealthy, grown in vineyards in the Nile Delta. And the Egyptians did something clever. They labeled their wine jars with the year, the vineyard, and the winemaker. They basically invented the wine label 3,000 years ago. They cared so much about food that they took it with them into death. Tombs were stocked with real meats, bread, fruit, and beer, so the dead wouldn't go hungry in the afterlife. Some tombs even had painted menus on the walls just in case. So that was the Egyptian diet: bread that wrecked their teeth, beer that paid their wages, onions they worshipped, and feasts fit for gods. They built the greatest monument on earth, fueled by the simplest foods imaginable. Not bad for a civilization running on carbs. Next time, how they stayed clean, why their eyeliner was actually medicine, and the weird beauty habits that were way ahead of their time. Stick around. Please like the video, subscribe if you're interested with notifications on. Adios.